The Long Dark is one of my favorite games that I don't really play anymore. This survival simulator set in the backwoods of Canada is genuinely one of the most gorgeous, lovingly designed, beautiful, seriously beautiful games ever made. It is absolutely fantastic and completely horrendous. It's complicated. But before we dive into it, let me say hello! I am Richard, and I am so glad that you could be here today. And boy, do I hope the devs are watching. The Long Dark does not need more survival mechanics. What it needs are things for the player to go out into the world and physically do. It needs reasons for the player to go out and explore instead of punishments for hunkering down. I'm going to start this video with some of the problems of what I think is a genuinely fantastic diamond in the rough, and one that you all should be playing. Then I'm going to talk about some ways that I go about fixing it, and I'm even going to list off 3 cool animals that I think would be awesome to add to the game, so stick around for that. As I am making this video, The Long Dark is celebrating its 10-year anniversary, and cheers Hinterland for that. The Midwest also just got its first cold snap, so very fitting all around. However, as someone who's been a fan of the game for many years now, I still have to say, the biggest problems I had with the game 6 years ago when I started playing are the same problems that's plaguing the game now. The best strategy for winning the game, whether you're on the easiest difficulty or the hardest difficulty, is to bunker down in one of like 4 or 5 specific areas in the game map, then continuously shoot/farm the bears and wolves that are constantly spawning like 5 feet outside your door, because despite the claims of this game being a realistic survival simulator, the predator animals still outnumber the prey animals about 500 to 1 like this is a Bethesda game. And once you've found one of those specific bunkering locations, congratulations, you have won the game. Unless you like watching the number of days survived tick upward, the game just has nothing to offer you past like day 5. I'm gonna give Hinterland credit that they tried to solve that problem, and then immediately remove that credit because they did it in the most Hinterland way possible. Instead of adding incentives for the player to go out and explore the world, things for them to physically do, they added this stupid cougar that attacks you if you stay in the same region for too long. Basically to punish players who bunker down because that's the easiest way to play. It's where you will default to play, like being a stealth archer in Skyrim. And before you ask, no, it's not a fair fight, the cougar just instantly spawns behind you and wrecks your shit. It's awful. And I have no footage of it because it was so bad that fans were in an uproar and demanded that it be removed within 48 hours. Totally in character for these devs, though. I still remember when one of the updates they were most excited for was the one where they gave the player character the ankles of an 80-year-old man. So your character just randomly breaks their ankle when walking up a hill. And what's funny is that in my experience, the best way to deal with that mechanic was to just not heal your ankle, because it was just gonna break like 2 minutes later anyway. So much for the realism the devs are going for. I swear I like this game. I swear I do like this game. So let's talk about some solutions that I think would make the game better. To start off, make the Steam Workshop page less barren. Every single time I reinstall this game, I am shocked every time that the Steam Workshop support exists, because there's nothing in there except for language translations, which are good, but still, come on. Given that the game's graphics are stylized and not going for like intense graphical fidelity, which is a good thing by the way, that's a compliment, you would think that players would be adding more items and weapons and even animals, but they're just not. There have been some additions recently, but not much. Not enough for a 10-year-old game. Raphael, you seem like a pretty tight-fisted dude when it comes to what goes into the game, but let me give a suggestion, genuine suggestion. Go to your devs, ask them, what's the best idea you have that you know I would say no to? And tell them to make that happen and put it in the Steam Workshop. You want to increase your concurrent player count tomorrow? That's a quick and easy way to do it. The second thing is also the obvious thing I've been screaming about this entire video. Have things for the player to physically go out and do in the game world, as opposed to punishing them for just hunkering down in one place. If that's where the game's incentives are driving players to go, that's not the player's fault, man. Like, I'm not saying add mini games, but there's gotta be some way for the player to go out and feel rewarded for exploring, you know, feel like they're making progress, they're becoming stronger. Yeah, there's the hunting, but the hunting was never that good. Let's just be honest about that. And in the same vein, please invest in the custom mode. That's where a lot of players end up anyway, because they start out with a particular difficulty, they find 1 or 2 things they don't like, and then they play the custom from then on out. And right now, feats progression is still locked if you're in custom mode, which is some petty shit. Don't do that. I personally would also add keywords to certain changes to try to make the actual menu for the custom mode a lot less daunting. The player base already likes to make, fun names for specific game modes. Gun Loper is one of my personal favorites. But if the player wants to have like aggressive animals and high loot spawns and clear weather, call that Wealthy Hunter's Retreat mode, something like that. Like actually standardize it in the menu to help give the player base the language to like talk about the modes that they like. They're already kind of doing that, but again, standardizing it would be good. And you could even spawn new story elements based on the custom settings. Like if you're in a mode with low animal aggression, computer terminals during the Aurora could spawn with notes talking about how the populace was doing a cull of really aggressive animals recently. Or if you play with the Aurora on every single night, glowing imagery of the Dark Walker appearing across the map, and maybe even little shrines that the populace has had in their homes. That could be cool. That would also be a lot more complicated to integrate, but like, you get what I mean though. And it would increase the replayability. It would encourage players to try new modes that are a little outside their comfort zone, and give the players something to talk about, swap stories, talk about cool things they found. And lastly, let's get on to the fun part. Let's talk about 3 animals that would be cool to add to the game. This is the part that I'm really excited about, actually. Number 1, dogs. And they could even reuse the wolf animations. The Long Dark desperately needs a way for the player to form a more complex relationship with the ecosystem than just animals either attack you or they don't. Dogs would not only be narratively justifiable in the game world, as there's already dog houses all over the map, and even with them being friendly, that still wouldn't mean they won't steal your food or grab rabbits out of snares. And that would actually be an interesting conundrum for the player as they figure out what to do in order to deal with that. Take this scenario. If you approach a deer carcass and a wolf is guarding it, you know exactly how it's going to behave because you've had video game logic, drill that into your brain for the past probably since Skyrim. If you approach a deer that's being eaten by dogs, will they attack you? Will they not? Is it worth the risk? You don't know. And that's the idea. That's the entire point. That's what makes it interesting. Number 2, elk herds. This would fill the same niche as the cougar, except like good. Herds of elk or deer roaming from region to region would be a sort of mobile resource that the player could track, follow if they want to, or just see randomly appear if they're bunkering down. It would also, once again, create a more interesting dynamic between the player and the predators. Because, if the region is full of free deer meat, bears and wolves might not be very hostile. But when that free source leaves, suddenly all bets are off. And number 3, seals and otters. Both would be cool, but I would settle for 1. The icy coasts feel really underdeveloped in the game. The most interesting updates they've gotten are the ice fishing expansion, which is cool, and the ability to fall through ice, which sucks. It has the exact same problem as the ankle sprains all over again. It de-incentivizes the player from going out and exploring. Thus, they're gonna bunker down. Adding animals to the icy coasts and lakes could be really, really fun and interesting. Even if the player spends most of the time just listening to them chirp in the background, that's still cool. That still makes the world feel alive. Plus, those animals have been staples for the tribes living in northern Canada for centuries. Probably longer than that. So, it would be a really cool exploration of that. In fact, I'm actually not sure why this game doesn't do more to explore like the history of northern Canada. They should just do that. Forget the animals for a sec. They should just do that. But anyway, that is the end of my thoughts, and therefore the end of this video. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. I want to assure everyone again that I do love this game, but the mentality of the studio just feels so deeply embedded in that like 2010s hardcore survival game boom. And if they want the game to keep getting better, they need to be able to break out of that mentality. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.